Welcome to the Aegance Offscript Podcast, where we talk to industry leaders who share their stories, insights, and lessons unfiltered and unscripted. I'm your host, Lawrence, and today I'm thrilled to be joined by Patrick Schreiber, the CEO of Polymorph Systems. Now, Patrick leads a Cape Town-based software firm founded back in 2008 that builds custom, people-centered software for businesses across banking, energy, education, and more. What I love about Polymorph is their emphasis not on just producing features, but on building software that delivers real business ROI. And their recent move to join the Octoco Group signals a new phase in growth for them. Patrick, thanks so much for joining us. Great to have you here.
Hi, Lawrence. How are you doing? It's really nice to be here, and thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. Great to have you on. Looking forward to the discussion. I wonder if, for the sake of the listeners and viewers, you can provide us with a little bit more context around Polymorph Systems, what it is that you do, areas of operations, etc.
Sure. So at Polymorph, we are a product consultancy. So we help people take things from ideas, figure out what to build, and then we actually build it. And most of what we're doing is validation, making sure that any product that you build is going to have the best chance of success in the market. So we specialize in building software products and not building just software. And I'll tell you a little bit about that quickly. So there are lots of companies that build software, but building a product takes curiosity and empathy for the users. When you're building software, you focus on what technology are we going to use? What are we able to build? How quickly can we deliver the features? What are the features we need to build? And typically software is used internally, but when people want what they're building to compete in the market, so you're building a SaaS solution or a mobile app or something like that, then you're building a product. And you need people that are external to your organization to want to use your product, so that it drives business value. And there's a lot to be done before you start thinking about technology and what code, what are we used to write the code, what is the code going to be like, what's the architecture. All those things are important, but before you need to shift your focus to learning. Who are we trying to help? What is the real problem that they're experiencing? How can we deliver the value? And importantly, how can we know that what we're building is working? So we use a very human-centered approach to do that, making sure, users are humans, That's what we do.
When you stepped into the CEO role, how did you define where you could create the most impact at Polymorph, and what decisions have shaped that journey so far?
That's a great question. Look, I took over about 3 years ago, which was a couple of years after the founders had exited. And Polymorph was, like you said, we've been around since 2008, and everything is an evolution. There's nothing new under the sun. Everything is evolving. So I inherited a lot of very good practices, reliant on building cross-functional teams, relying on your team, making sure everybody has a voice in pushing a product forward. So I worked within that framework, but also really helped optimize what was there, and looking at making sure that what we do is sustainable, changing our offering a little bit. So tailoring what we offer to the customers more and more. So we don't just have a standard offering anymore. It's a real conversation with with our potential customers to find out exactly what's going to work for them and meet their needs.
Jan, would you say that there were any pushback or sort of mindset shifts that needed to occur within the team as you led that evolution?
Definitely a mind shift kind of thing that has to go on, but no pushback. I think that the team, as I say, has always been very, very collaborative, and it's something that I've embraced. And I'm not a dictator, so I'll put my idea out there and ask people for feedback. And one of the things I have learned from Richard Barry, who was one of the founders, is have a strong opinion, but hold it loosely. Say what you believe, but if somebody has a better idea or a way to adjust it, then you go with that. And that really has been key to the success of where we are right now.
And if we look 12 to 18 months into the future, what sort of strategic decisions are going to matter most for the company?
Quite a difficult question. Where we are as a product consultancy, it's very difficult to differentiate ourselves from other people that build software, because in most people's mind, I need an app. Who can build software? So strategically, differentiation on it's not just software, it's product. That's very important to us. From a capacity point of view, hiring the best talent, always what we've been doing for a long time, making sure that there is very good culture fit. Again, our culture drives our success. The ability for anybody in the company to question me and feel safe doing that, very important. And that sense of safety within the team needs to be maintained.
Mm.
So that's what we've been doing, but really focusing on that is very important.
Got you. And in mid 2024, the Octoco Group acquired Polymorph. Can you tell us a little bit about how that transition has developed over the time since then?
Sure. It's been a very fruitful partnership, I suppose. We used to be with the AlphaWave Group, and Octoco had was founded. Octoco stands for, or is a shortening of outsourced CTO. So they started off as outsourced CTO services and went into development and engineering, and they build amazing engineering solutions, but software. They build software, right? They and hardware and that kind of stuff, but software. And they really saw a need for our products experience within the market, and so there's a real growth opportunity. They could build that up themselves or acquire us and bring it into their stable and be able to offer it across the board. Octoco is a group with about 15 different companies now. So not all consulting. There are product companies in there as well that have spun out of projects that they've done. So it's very exciting. Having that at our fingertips is also very good for us. So when somebody wants some real deep engineering work done, or when it makes sense for a product to have deep engineering work done, we can get assistance from there. Also, I mean, keeping any company sustainable, especially a consulting company, is about sales and networking, and we are doing very well working with them and find when we get a lead or they get a lead, working with them to determine which is the best company to take this one forward. So it's been very fruitful and it's very collaborative. We moved from the building we were at. We're in the same building as them now. We see them all the time. It's very cool.
Amazing. I mean, that was going to be my next question, whether you've been allowed to sort of maintain your independence while still leveraging, their experience, their expertise, and their network.
Yeah, definitely. We are very independent. I mean, it would be silly of me not to seek the advice and the help that's there. So we definitely work together. But the companies are still two very separate companies.
Mm-hmm.
It's nice having it's almost like having another company as a best friend, if I can say it that way. I've got someone like, if you're best friend, you're having a problem, you're need dating advice, you'll phone your best friend. For us, if I need business advice, I'll get hold of my company best friend, which is really great.
Yeah, I like that a lot. At the top of the call, Patrick, you emphasized discovery and design before development. I mean, how do you operationalize that philosophy across multiple projects?
That's a great question. Operationalizing, what exactly do you mean by operationalize?
When there are many projects on the go, how do you ensure that the focus remains on discovery and design first before development? So how do you essentially scale that philosophy out?
So one of the things that we do differently is we try to dedicate team members to a project. So a lot of software companies you'll buy essentially hours from them, and they'll split those hours between the engineers and the other resources on the project. When we can, if a project is big enough to sustain it, we will do full-time allocations. So that's the first thing. It really lets team members focus on that product and care about that product. We hire for that as well. We hire for people that are wanting to create solutions to problems that make the world a better place. Then also, we are not just software engineers. Of our now 30 odd people, only about 12 are software engineers. In our teams, we have product managers who know all the product theory and make sure that you are following good product practices and setting goals and objectives and meeting them and ensuring that there's a roadmap, all those kind of cool things. And we have what we're now calling, used to be UX, user experience, we're now calling product experience people. And they are our designers and our user researchers, and they are between product managers and the product experience team. They're in charge of that. So every project has a dedicated, that Mardi and Maru are doing your product experience, and Hanko is doing your product management, and their findings are shown to the team before anything gets built. So they show them to the devs. There's a discussion. So what it generally tends to look like is somebody will make an assumption, and assumptions are good at this point. You go, I assume that if we remove friction to onboarding, we will increase user sign up by 20%. And then you go say, okay, well, how would we do that? The design team will go and see, how can we achieve this? They'll do some mock-ups, or we will do some research and talk to people. What was friction for you during sign up? Which things were harder than we thought they would be? Ultimately, we'll come up with prototypes. Those prototypes will get tested with users again. The user feedback will be given to the whole team. The whole team will decide how do we actually, from the research, the data that we've gathered on this, how can we make that better? I mean, reducing friction in sign up is a silly example, but it's the first thing I can think of right now. So it's in our process. Everything that we build is verified before we build it. Okay, so let me maybe elaborate. Some things you don't need to verify. Like you don't need to test a sign-in flow on an app. Like just please give us your username and password. That there are heuristics. We know how that works. But when anything is novel, then we will run it through the process.
Got you. Yeah, that makes complete sense. So internally, how are you measuring the return on investment? I mean, both for your clients, but also for your own efficiency.
Return on investment is a very difficult thing to measure. I'm sure it's not as easy as when you invest 3 million rand in software over 10 years, you will get back 9 million rand, and like that's easy to measure. That is actually easy to measure if you're measuring in the long term, right? So, but that's not a luxury most people have. Is you need to make a decision and build something now. So we do hypotheses essentially. What is the theoretical benefit? What is the effort to build a feature into an app or to build a minimum viable product? And does that matter? Does that match what we expect? So, I mean, we make predictions.
So, Patrick, in an increasingly crowded software market, how is Polymorph differentiating its approach to client acquisition and retention? You touched on this a little bit earlier in the conversation, but I'd like to sort of dive into that in a bit more detail.
Yeah, that's a fraught thing. There are so many people that develop software, as you said, and it's not like you're Coke and Pepsi, where there's Coke and Pepsi, and maybe in the Western Cape you've got Jive, the small players, and you can compete directly on price or quality or whatever. Just being known is the first thing. Just having people know that you exist is the most difficult thing. We are doing a lot of work on outreach for that. And then differentiation from what do we build? We build products. But from a marketing and awareness point of view, we make a lot of what we do freely available. Kind of like open sourcing the techniques. So on our website, we've got a list, what we call a Zettelkasten, but it's under blogs and articles. But Zettelkasten is a way of indexing data. But the point is, we'll tell you how do you do user research, and we'll explain it. And why is user research important? Like this, what should a MVP achieve? Like, tell people what we know. The idea, I suppose, is that builds trust with people up front. Even knowing how to do something doesn't mean you're going to do it exceptionally well. And there's a vast market out there that wants to build product but isn't actually our customer. I'm talking about like real early stage startup that's unfunded and wants to build something and test. And we'll say to them, and the number of meetings I have with people that have an idea but don't know how to go forward, and I'll just advise them, what have you done to test it? How are you confirming your assumptions? Like, what can you do without building any software? So all that kind of stuff is we make available through our website. We make it available through almost anybody can find the time to meet with me, and I'll give them advice. It's the kind of stuff that I really love doing. Talking to people, giving advice.
And what would you say is changing most about how clients buy or evaluate various software partners?
So if I'm honest, I'm not sure how much is actually changing. Ultimately, it's difficult to get people to understand the value. When you're talking about, if you're selling to a corporate, it's like cost and timeline, and it has been and always will be. I suspect but in our space, the funded startup or a company that has built an MVP, proven the market, and now needs to know, how do we get to product market fit? What do we need to build from there? Those people understand it, and I'm seeing that is changing a lot. They understand the advantage of product theory and making sure you're building the right thing. Because building software is expensive, especially if you're hiring someone to outsource it. You want to know that the value you're getting is very important. It is very good.
Yeah, absolutely. What you've just said is something that I've heard quite a lot, is that, building software is expensive. And I'm just wondering if maybe there's a bit of a disconnect in terms of what it actually costs to build versus what your clients are expecting to pay for that build.
We get that a lot. We do. I try to let people know upfront that software is going to be expensive, and the difficulty is that you never know how big it is, because you can scale what you build. So I tend to give like an average monthly cost for one of our teams, and tell them like the quickest you could build anything is 3-4 months, and that's going to be quite a minimum product, but that you can take and test. And then, how do you iterate on that? So we let them know costs up front. A lot of people are shocked. I get a lot of meetings with people where they say, but I Googled it and it said it would cost about 100,000 Rand to build a product. And I have to, break their illusions and tell them, no, you're looking at more like 3 to 5 million Rand to build a robust product that is usable in the market.
That is quite a substantial jump from 100,000.
It really is, and the people that are shocked and disbelieving, and but I could get someone else to do it. I need to explain. It's actually expensive. We've got, like I said, the best people for us. The best people. They command relatively high salaries. There are all sorts of overhead costs. I'm very open with my costing on people, but people can be very shocked at how expensive it is to build software. Not that it should put you off. You're looking at business models. You need to have a very wide reach for your software. So we talk about target customers in beachhead markets. So when you're building a product, it's because you spotted a need, you spotted a problem, and you think you've got a way to solve it. So you look at, well, who has this problem? Who's your target market? Okay. If that target market isn't big enough, then it's not really useful as a business. You might build it because you can build your own software and you want to provide, you have fun doing it, but it's not going to be viable as a business. So you need to do that kind of business model canvassy. So I think, what will we charge? How many people? What set portion of the market will we be able to capture, and make sure it looks good? Then you say, but who's the beachhead market? When we're building an MVP, you say, sure, this is the whole market, but trying to build something that solves the problem for everybody is really hard. It's going to take a long time. You're not going to get in there. You're not going to learn anything quickly. So we say, who are the people that we could capture the most easily? That subsection of the market, the beachhead. And we build for them, we deploy, and we start learning. So like that 3 to 4 month initial MVP that we've built, you start learning from it. There's nothing like getting actual usage stats. And we use software services inside the software to track how do people use it. So like when they've logged in, what is the first place they go? What do they look like? What is the user? We expected the user journey to flow A, B, C, D, E, but people are going A, B, E, B, E, B, E. So maybe there's a problem there. Let's go look at it. Let's talk to people about how that journey is working. So we're getting that feedback the whole time and iterating and improving the products. until we get to the point where now we can expand the market we're looking at, and when you and then you get to product market fit, and then you got to scale. And so we started talking about building a business around it. You don't really start seeing real return on investment until you're hitting that point of product market fit and scaling. You should start getting revenue before that, because it's a signal that you're doing things the right way. But depending on what you build, break-even revenue can take years. I mean, I think Uber started to break even. I'm not entirely sure yet or not, and that's been going for a while. But some products, one of our products that was in the logistics space, took about 4 years to get there. And big celebration when they got there. And went from about 30 users, 30 to 40 users at launch, rapidly grew to 1,000 users. And then once they started solving all the problems that those people had, when I say problems, I don't mean problems with the software, additional problems that they could solve in the product. Once those things started being solved, they were then able to just grab more customers and more customers and more customers. And now when they started with us, they were a team of 5 people and are mostly business, nobody technical. And we stepped in and with a team of about 5 or 6 people to help them build their product. 5 years later, we had helped them train their own team, and they took over from us, and they are massive now. They are like 150 people facilitating thousands of logistics transactions a month. It's very gratifying to see that.
Yeah, I'm sure. What would you say are some of the most common expectations that you come across when you're sitting down with a client? I mean, where does speed in terms of like delivery come into the conversation? Things like AI integration, measurable return on investment. I mean, are you dealing with these expectations regularly?
Definitely. I think that people arrive and they think that they've got the best idea. They've got an idea. They know how they're going to solve the problem, and they expect us to build it. And we've had cases where we've started an engagement with a customer and wanted to do the customer and product discovery we do, because we are unsure about the idea, and had some real pushback, like just build what I'm telling you to. I want you to build. And in that situation, we are not confident enough, and we would say we don't think that this is the right fit for us. That's one expectation. The real expectation that I hope to see and that we meet fairly well is building products that people want to use. And it's about explaining to potential customers that even if you're like 80% sure that people are going to want to use your product, that there's a market for it, it's better to find that out quickly. We normally start a project with or a potential engagement with something called concept design. So this is especially for new ideas that we want to build. The customer wants to build something that is going to be tested in the market. And I can't think of a single concept design where we've done customer discovery and product discovery where we didn't find out key things that changed the idea along the way. And to the point where even you do your customer and product discovery and you discover, actually, it's not worth building this. It's just not worth it. And that's a great answer, because you've spent a few 100,000 rand on some investigations and not 3 million rand or on some software that doesn't sell and doesn't get taken up.
And is that telling yourself internally that it's not worth doing it? Like you as Polymorph can't take the project on? Or is it telling the client, this isn't going to yield the results that you think it is?
It's telling the client. So again, one of our things that maybe I didn't explain earlier is we work very closely with our customers. Our customers almost embed in our team. So we need, at least when we're doing a project, our team is fully dedicated. We need a person that's at least half time dedicated to the project as well. So they're seeing everything that we're doing and they're helping us make those decisions, because we can't, make the business decisions on someone's behalf. And in a concept design, they would see the user research interviews, they're approving prototypes and going through ideation sprints, all that kind of stuff, and seeing the results of what we get out. Despite the best effort, I'll give you an example. There was a product that we were asked to investigate that was going to, I need to speak very carefully about what I can say and what I can't, but going to reduce admin for people. Okay. It was going to reduce admin for people, and we kind of designed it and then did build a prototype and tested it with people, and people loved it. They thought it was, this reduces my admin. It's amazing. The problem was it reduced admin in relation to a different service. So like an institute, admin in relating to an institution. Let me put it that way. That's a good way to explain it. And the problem was, unless the institutions adopted this product, people wouldn't be able to use it. And it was going to be impossible to get the institutions to adopt the product, because for them, that admin didn't cost them anything. The customer did it. And there wasn't enough, again, not just a single monolithic institution, but not enough competition between those institutions to make this a priority. And therefore, like, you came with a great solution. It solves a real world problem, but it doesn't have any business value. So we advised them. So our advice in that case was it's not going to work. The advice was, you're not ready to build this because you don't know what the value to those institutions is going to be. You need to get in front of those institutions, speak to them, figure out what value you can provide to them, so that they will adopt this product and people will be able to use it.
And Patrick, if we take a step back and look at the sort of broader custom software landscape, it seems like the South African custom software market is expanding quite rapidly, but it's also becoming a lot more commoditized. I mean, how do you see that competitive landscape evolving into the future?
So it's interesting. Look, it's now even easier to build software than it's ever been, and to build good software. The tools are evolving. They're getting better all the time. I don't want to be that guy that turns every conversation into a conversation about AI, but these tools are making what we do, what software engineers do, much easier. Okay. And then not just AI, but just frameworks that allow you to build once, deploy anywhere. So you can build one code base and deploy it as a web app, as a mobile app, as a desktop app, and it's easy to maintain. So it's one way getting cheaper and easier to build software, but as you say, there's more competition for what you're building. So it becomes very important is that you differentiate. When you're building a product, you differentiate that product well. Why is the product that you're building solving a need better than anybody in the competition? And one of the fundamentals on product that I talk about is that you are always competing. No matter what you do, you are competing with something, and you should compete by being different. Not being slightly cheaper, slightly better, but by doing something completely different. So while it's easy to build software, it's still expensive. And it costs time from engineers. And also, if you're building a product that you want to release into the market, building the wrong thing, means that you release later and you lose opportunity. So the things that we do around discovery and validation become more and more important, I feel.
Mm.
And I think that we're in a very good position to leverage that.
And as you look into the future, let's say in the next 12 to 24 months, what excites you most about that future, and where do you see the greatest challenge?
I'm not sure. I'm typically not good at predicting, but I think that the future is for what we do is incorporating better tools, and those tools aren't there right now. They're not quite there. You can't say, "Oh, I need an app that does X, Y, Z," and it just happens. I get calls with people. I have meetings with people and said, "I've used an AI to build my app, but it just doesn't work. Can you help me build? Can you help me make it work?" And so they're not quite there yet, but they're going to get very close. Okay, you're still going to need engineers, but it's exciting how quickly you'll be able to prototype and test and validate stuff. I think it's going to be hugely powerful. It really does excite me. And it worries me because I think that there are going to be a lot of things being put out that don't have really good engineers working with the tools to make sure that there's good quality. So you're going to get a lot of just apps that aren't wonderful, but then you might get things like there was a dating app in the States recently that was almost entirely vibe coded and had almost no security on it. And people's the pictures that people were sending each other on messages, and you can imagine what that would be on a dating app, were freely available to a bunch of people. So yes, they built a product really quickly, but as Dr. Malcolm from Jurassic Park says, they were so excited by whether they could, they didn't stop to consider whether they should. So yeah, it's exciting and daunting.
Patrick, if our listeners and viewers want to reach out to yourself and connect with you and the broader team at Polymorph, where's the best place for them to do that?
Our website is a great place, polymorph.co.za. They could reach out to me on LinkedIn if they want to speak to me specifically. And I'm very keen for people to reach out and have a conversation about a product idea that they've had. And I will always give them my best advice. I often kind of turn into problem-solving mode as my default. So yeah, I'm always excited to talk to people about their ideas.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to join us on the podcast today. It's been a very interesting conversation, diving into your journey with Polymorph as the CEO, but also Polymorph's journey and looking at what the future holds for you and the company. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Lawrence. It's been a pleasure chatting to you.
That's it for today's episode of the Aegance Offscript Podcast. If this conversation sparked something, a thought, a question, or a new way of seeing your own business, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment down below. We'll catch you on the next one. Cheers.